Service assurance is really all about making sure that we can make IT investments completely accountable to the business. In the past, service assurance was really about monitoring. It was about events and alerts and alarms. It was about understanding the uptime or the availability of the infrastructure and the applications, and understanding it in a kind of a reactive cadence, if you will. But increasingly, as the dependence of IT is more tuned to the performance of the business, that is no longer acceptable. So what service assurance really attempts to deliver to the industry is the ability to make the infrastructure and the applications more accountable to the business in real time. And our management products and solutions enable us to manage that much more proactively, much more predictably, to ensure that those revenue critical business applications and the infrastructure that supports it is really driving accountability to the business. Well, I think BYOD, cloud, big data, as well as other drivers in the business like analytics, like network virtualization, like mobility in general. They're all drivers which are putting pressure on the CIO to think about leveraging the advancements, the disruptive capabilities of technologies, if you will, to really support and underpin the requirements of his business. To consider them individually for most companies is no longer the issue. It's about considering them all. BYOD, for example, is an opportunity to allow people to use their own device and choice of device and the benefit of that technology, and use that to really become an extension of everyday enterprise business. It doesn't make sense for corporations to keep buying devices for their employees when employees either would prefer to use their own, or it just makes sense for him or her to use their own. Cloud is really and has always been about choice. It's about providing corporations and small businesses with the choice of how they consume IT, whether they build and deploy it on-premise, or they take their first service from the cloud, or they, as we increasingly see, look to blend both together. We call it hybrid IT. It's really a fusion of both worlds coming together to meet the needs and demands and requirements of the business. Big data is really an opportunity which has come out or been born from the fact that IT subsystems and applications create more data, more instrumentation. In the past, that hasn't really been used for the benefits of the business, but now with analytics technology and the ability to make more sense of that data, we're able to use it to provide deeper analysis around things that maybe are impacting the performance of the business. Perhaps to understand the behavior patterns of our customers, or to look at financial segmentation of our markets and our key products, to be more deterministic perhaps about how we deploy or change or groom our services. I like to think that most CIOs really have a confluence of these things that have all descended upon he or she, all at the same time. What I think is important for organizations is to think through how they harness this, leverage the complexity, but utilize it to drive and promote the next generation of their business. That, I think, is what it really means to each and every enterprise customer, each and every large telecommunication or government institution, to even the most emerging and growing customer, our partners, both resellers, systems integrators, they all have a role to play in this confluence of complexity and choice, which is born around the drivers I've just discussed.
It's just to add and give it an Indian perspective. You look at the Indian market today. Depending upon how you segment and dice the market, every reseller or partner or every emerging SI is not looking at segmentation of the market the way we used to look 10 years ago. The way we used to look 10 years ago is that we look at the top 100 enterprises, 200 enterprises, 500 enterprises and focus on there because that's where the money is. But today, because of these technologies, these disruptive technologies that you mentioned about cloud and about different consumption models, analytics, social media, BYOD, mobility, like Stephen said, mobility as in general, it's so pervasive that market opportunities and the breadth of the market opportunities across the mid-market and small and medium market is so huge that everybody wants to look at how they can create a specific service or a value add or a specific business stream in each of these segments. So the focus is no longer those top 2,000 enterprises, because the agility that is required in today's marketplace to be successful and to be innovative and to be able to deliver results faster than your competitor or your next door neighbor is tremendous. While the top 2,000 enterprises or 1,000 enterprises have the money, they take a longer time to move an inch. Whereas there are these players in the market who embrace these technologies and move forward, and that's something that the market has slowly come to realize. So that makes more reason for people like us, who are the solution providers, who are the technology vendors, to make sure that our solutions are not only adaptable to those 2,000 customers, but also adaptable to the lower end of the market. But that we can't always go and reach every customer in the market. That's why we tend to look at this as an opportunity where we can create solutions like Snap, like our mobility solutions, like our infrastructure management solutions, our application performance management solutions, where that gives our resellers, our partners, our consultants and influencers an ability to go into and attack a larger section of market. So it's very important that we keep these drivers in mind when we are providing solutions, not only from a customer perspective, but also from perspective of whom we go through to the market. Enterprise mobility is a very interesting term. So there are two aspects of enterprise mobility. So one is the mobility in itself, right, in terms of BYOD, in terms of managing the mobile devices, in terms of controlling the life cycle of the mobile devices. That's our MDM portfolio. That's not part of the service assurance portfolio, but it's part of our MDM portfolio that enables you to automatically get a mobile device registered and then track it through entire life cycle, right, from security to configuration so that enterprises can get advantage out of the whole mobility BYOD strategy. The other most important aspect of the mobility business is about managing applications in mobile. Now that's a different ballgame altogether, right? So you've got your enterprise applications on your mobile, you've configured, you've provisioned. That's one part to set the stage up. So we have solutions in our MDM portfolio for people who are starting that. For people who have already embraced mobility and who traveled that journey, they have their mobile applications running. So we have our mobile application performance management solution that we are bringing to market, which enables them to tie in their application performance. So if you have your applications running in your infrastructure that will be consumed from mobile, right? It is important to know the application performance from a experience perspective, response time perspective. It doesn't matter how you are accessing your applications, right? Through a browser, through laptops, etc. It doesn't matter. So depending upon how you are accessing your applications, your experience changes. As a CIO, as somebody who is responsible for delivering those application experiences, it's important that they know how their applications are consumed, what is the experience of those applications in those in those devices, whether it is a mobile device, smartphone. So our application performance management solutions gives you a consolidated experience across laptops, mobiles, desktops, all of those. Then in our infrastructure management portfolio, we have solutions that enable you to look at how these applications are delivered, again, to variety of endpoints. Right? So it's, like Stephen said, it's a consolidation of a lot of these drivers that enables somebody to deliver an effective service. But because each of these drivers possess their own challenges, cloud possesses its own challenge, mobility possesses its own challenge, it's important that a management suite or a cohesive management solution is necessary for CIOs to at least look at it and be assured that what they want to deliver is getting delivered and gets the right each of these vendors that you named have their own way of looking at the market and slicing and dicing the market. Right? VMware looks at it from a virtualization perspective, server hardware perspective. Citrix looks at it from a completely different perspective. We look at it from a completely different perspective because we are hardware agnostics, operating system agnostic, software agnostics. We look at it from a pure play enterprise management perspective, and we look at it from an application economy perspective. We tend to believe that in this world of complex applications getting integrated with things talking to each other through APIs, web services, the whole business that anybody runs, whether it is a small IT or a medium IT or a large enterprise house or a telecom service provider or a government agency, this whole business is about how can you orchestrate multiple streams of your business, whether it is through cloud, hybrid, like Stephen said. How can you orchestrate to deliver one service effectively? We don't look at it from a server perspective or an application perspective or an infrastructure perspective. We believe that unless and until we have a technology approach that can cohesively merge how all of these different silos and then give you a visibility of how your business service, how your application-oriented business service is performing, not only performing, is reacting to various business events. It is impossible to look at it from a very server-centric or a app-centric or a desktop-centric view or an asset-centric view and hope to manage this complexity at all. So that way, the way we look at it, we don't even consider the names that you mentioned as our competition because we don't compete in what they do. Stephen, you want to add something on that?
Yeah, I think what I want to add is just really, with partners in mind. Sometimes our business has been seen as something which the partners are required just to install, instantiate our software and make it effective in a customer's environment, if you will, installation and delivery. But to Abhilash's point, as we think about this coexistence with the other big vendors in the business that all provide their different components in this new complicated IT infrastructure, which is part and parcel of our business, there is a huge need for the system integrators and the value-added resellers to step up and provide a value of service above and beyond perhaps what they have traditionally done over the last 10, 15 years. And so the opportunity for them to monetize that and make great healthy margins, I think is just a wonderful opportunity, because the products themselves don't necessarily deliver the ultimate value that they are required to provide without the integrators and the value-added resellers coming in and adding that layer of value to really fine-tune the desired outcomes of the products and solutions. So I've heard many people say to me, well, do you think, Stephen, in this day and age that the SI is the thing of the past, and the reseller is the thing of the past, and we're all just going to just take things through services and direct from the vendors? And I think it's going in the other direction. I think partners are going to be becoming more important than ever. And so the onus on us in the Indian market in particular will be to not only work very closely with our partners, but help deliver that higher layer of value-added services with our partners to the customers. So I think it's an exciting time for the partner business.
Again, it's a very, from a broader perspective, irrespective of whether it is BYOD or CYOD, we're talking about a complexity where enterprises will have to now manage a heterogeneous set of platforms, a heterogeneous set of users, a heterogeneous set of devices, right? Now, depending upon how each organization defines BYOD, right? Some of them define BYOD as CYOD, right? Depending upon how the organization's maturity curve and all that, right? For example, there are organizations in India which says you can bring your own device, but then it has to be like this. That becomes a CYOD. In
policies,
yeah, policies and all that. But the ultimate business challenge that it proposes is to have a consistent delivery experience across these applications, because the underlying theme of all of this initiative is to improve productivity. Right? So let's understand, why would an organization implement BYOD? Ability to relate employees and make employees happy is just one of it. The business reason is to improve productivity. Right? Unless and until enterprises look at it as a project that enhances the productivity, the way the applications work, the way the employee does what he's supposed to do, whether it is a sales application, whether it is an ERP application, whether it is a email application, how that business service, and I will call that application as an application service, how that service is delivered onto that device, onto that heterogeneous platform, and how that platform then reacts to the application, right? That's where I talked about a complex application economy. It's very fast becoming headless applications talking to headless applications kind of world, right? And that's how the handshake happens between in a mobile world or in a laptop world. So if enterprises have got their act together in terms of their service delivery infrastructure, in terms of how seamlessly they can deliver their application services, I think moving on to an endpoint platform is not as much as a challenge in terms of distributing the platforms or finding whether it should be BYOD or CYOD or whatever, maybe something else that would come tomorrow. But if they've got their act right in terms of developing, deploying and operationalizing their application delivery infrastructure as well as their application delivery technologies, they've got their act right, I think that migration and that movement will be painless. But if you have not got their act right in terms of your development, both on the development side as well as on the operational side, if you've not got your act right, then you're going to have challenge today, you're going to have challenge tomorrow, you're going to have challenge here. Right. So I think that's where
I like to phrase it like this: the benefit which that paradigm provides, which is choice, ubiquity, personalization, simplicity, cost reduction from the business's perspective, still comes at a cost, because the complexity doesn't go away. It just shifts from the user of the infrastructure and the applications to the provider of the infrastructure and the applications. And so, to Abhilash's point, providing that complexity is being embraced, enhanced, and delivered within the IT infrastructure from either the service provider or the enterprise, then it doesn't matter, which variation of this takes off, and they'll probably all be successful. It's the shifting right, if you will, of the complexity. rising to that complexity challenge, which is why I said in my original point, the role of the partners here to help with this industry need and requirement is crucial. And that's why I think it's a huge opportunity for all of our partners, our system integrators and reseller partners to rise to the challenge and deliver this value in the business to enable this paradigm shift to take place.
And we believe that we are, from a solution side of the house, we believe that we are uniquely positioned to various other people in this business to do this job effectively, primarily because of the nicheness and the ubiquity that we have across platforms, across devices, across technologies, across databases, applications. Because we don't see the world like that. We see the world differently. We see the world as business powered by this whole application economy, if I would say, use that word. Good question, and I think I'll take off on what we did last time about Snap. Right? That's something that was very bold from our side for a company that's been focused on enterprises, top enterprises for a long time. Our CEO Mike Grigor came in and he championed that idea, and I think, as I said to you earlier, that kind of clicked on. Right? So we've received immensely positive response to that launch, and in terms of number of downloads, in terms of market outreach, in terms of people knowing, at the people at that end of the spectrum looking at us and considering us seriously. In terms of going to that market, that mid, and we like to call it mid market plus the small and medium business market. It's a very agile market. It's a very crowded market, and especially in India, it's a very crowded market. And it's a very agile market, but it's too big to ignore. Too big to ignore, because all the next 2,000 enterprises are going to come from there. Right? So what's most important is how do you attack that market. There are many people who have tried different ways to do that, but I think honestly, from a CA perspective, we're looking at it in terms of what they want and what we have. Right? They want agile, easy, quick, consumable solution, and it's all about consumption model to them. And that's a market where I see the maximum amount of innovation that's possible for both us, who are the solution providers, or the OEMs, so to call, as well as our partners, right? In terms of how we can jointly innovate, because there you can come up with such innovative models, both around the pricing and consumption of solutions, right? So we look at tying up with MSPs, for example, to attack that market. We look at tying up with reseller partners for that market. We look at coming up with specific solutions like Snap, so that we can attract that market. So there are many innovations that is possible, because you look at that market and you say, how do I reach? Reach is everything, right? Agility is everything. That market is also innovative in terms of the customer portfolio. That is a market where probably the maximum number of people are shifting their applications to cloud. Not in the top 2,000. In the top 2,000, that shift has happened, but it is not. It has friction. It has its own inertia, because it's been prevalent for 15 years. In that market, they start with cloud, and then they slowly come in-house. In this market, it's the other way around, and that's where Stephen talked about the whole hybrid IT, right? They're probably also very agile in adopting other newer technologies, right? Like network virtualization, for example, like other application technologies. So for us to be in sync with that market, it is important that we are innovative, both on the product side as well as on the partner side, in terms of pricing, in terms of packaging, in terms of positioning, in terms of go-to-market. And we're pretty much aligned there in terms of how we're going to do that. And you'll see us come up with various ways and means by which we can attack that market, both on the infrastructure side, on the infrastructure management portfolio, monitoring portfolio, as well as on the application monitoring side. That's a market of keen interest to us, and we aim to.
You're not into virtualization. He is not into virtualization.
Okay, let me.
The desktop virtualization.
We have to be into virtualization, otherwise we wouldn't exist as a business. I'm being facetious. The point I'm trying to make is that everybody is virtualizing. Certainly the data center assets today, the server farms. Increasingly they're beginning to think about virtualizing their networking resources with network virtualization, software-defined networking, and so on and so forth. Virtualization is a reality of how customers utilize and leverage their infrastructure assets. Our role is to help them optimize the utilization of those assets through managing them effectively, both at the simple end of the equation and at the complex end of the equation, and helping our customers to manage both on-premise and through a service-consumed instance, irrespective of how it's deployed. So in that sense, we are agnostic in terms of the virtualization platform and or the choice of how that customer utilizes the technology, be it on-premise or as a service. But our job absolutely is to help them manage the performance of the virtualized infrastructure and the applications that reside within.
I'll give an example just to make this clear. Like for example, you talk about desktop virtualization. So we're not the desktop virtualization provider. We're not in that business, right? Like Sequential, our job is to make sure that when they roll out desktop virtualization and they have installed it across 2,500 users, how is it that they can look at that infrastructure, that technology, and guarantee delivery of certain applications and still feel comfortable at the fact that my users are getting what you want. So for example, NIMSOFT today supports the VDI platform. So that looks at how we can look at a VDI deployment and then monitor and manage that from a central location. That's a desktop virtualization example. Shift forward to data center virtualization, right? Again, we don't play in the desktop, the server virtualization space because we're not a server vendor, we're not an operating system vendor. But our job there is to look at how virtualization, how the benefits of virtualization can be realized, how a customer or partner can realize the benefit of the virtualization, right? How then we go a step up in data center and say that, okay, you virtualized your data center, how can we now combine the ability to do things like capacity planning around virtualization, things like data center management around power, space, cooling, right? You understand India is a market where there is 75%, said globally, 75% of the money spent is not on the server and software, but on the power, cooling, and the facility side. So how can we enable them to say that if you are virtualized and you are running your data center hotter, how can we get the balance between the power utilization and your availability? So we have our data center infrastructure management portfolio that looks at data center power utilization and give you clear-cut indication of where you can optimize the power utilization without compromising on the availability of the data center as well as on the utilization of the data center. That's a huge thing. If I can make my data center power cost or my data center power consumption, diesel consumption, cooling cost down by even 2%, the kind of money that they would save would pay for itself. To just pay for itself, right? So from a virtualization perspective, we look at the world differently, and that's as I said, we look at the world differently in terms of, it's not about what technology you are rolling out. It's about realizing the value of the technology. It's about how we can make the technology do the work for you. And then we are the watchdogs there. We are the guys who would get in and say, let's make sure that that technology that you've deployed is giving you benefits. And let's make sure that these are the things that you need to do to get more benefits out of the technology that you've deployed. Otherwise, deploying virtualization in a setup without deploying virtualization in a setup where it is not optimally virtualized, the data center power costs are going up, virtualization costs are going up because you're not realizing any value out of it. Right? That's our view.